Coming in hot, I'm your host and captain of the Reason to Reason podcast, Sal Galati. We're going to do something a little bit different. You're just going to get a taste, a dose of reason. So I like to avoid the topics everyone else is talking about if I can, but this one's just too relevant to avoid, and it has to do mainly with a text thread I had with some friends regarding it, and just how I just find these patterns of people following what the news wants them to do and think and say versus maybe just thinking about it critically. So today we're going to talk about tariffs and this tariff trepidation that's going on in the marketplace and in the world. So what's my expertise in this? Nothing. I have a finance degree from the University of Illinois, big deal, but I have common sense. I like to think I have common sense. I had a dad that didn't go to college, but he had a ton of common sense, and I negotiate for a living, so I understand how things work, and I also have an eye for criminal activity and when things are out of whack, and I also could pick out a liar when I see one. So that's my qualifications. So I got to describe these friends for you. I love them. I think they're bright, nice enough folks. One thing, though, I feel like they jump for the circus ball, and I don't understand how many times people could get lied to and continue to listen to the people lying to them. And the people that are trying to tell them the truth and have been proven to be right, they dismiss and ignore and grow actually hostility towards. So whether it be like Trump had nuclear codes in his bathroom and everyone was panicking and he's going to go to jail and this and that, or I mean, dozens at this point of things that were just red herrings, big distractions. And now we're on to the next one. And you know, it goes to like these folks, I feel like they listen to the false prophets. They don't care how many times that they're wrong or led astray. The next ball that bounces, they bite like they're trained to, and they don't understand that they're being lied to. It's like a Stockholm syndrome. So overall, when we talk tariffs, what's going on? I think we have a selfish society that's unmoored from reality. At least the people in the media and the people that get platforms to speak, right? Most of America doesn't have a platform to speak. They're just in a small town and have been screwed over for the last 40 years. And no one hears their story. Just every genius on Twitter is either in a well-to-do neighborhood or children of people that are well-to-do, that really haven't provided anything to society. And I'm just speaking in generalities. But I know for sure, like the journalists are just known liars. They've lied many, many times. So in this society, they believe that the economy is solely set up for them to be able to buy cheap crap. For years, I've been telling my friends, all that's going on is China's sending over cancer and we're sending over cash. And all this stuff, all these toys and all this crap that we have our food in and we use as utensils to eat and drink our water out of, it's all ending up in landfills, and on top of it, the poison gets in our soil. They're poisoning us. They're sending over poison. And most people are borrowing money to buy it. And this isn't an attack on the people in China. My righteous anger is towards politicians on both sides of the aisle, and they profited from it. You know, most times in history, when one nation's on the ascent and one nation's on the descent, there's a conflict. But usually, the country on the descent doesn't profit. And in our nation, in the descent, our leaders have been profiting off of selling us out. That's what people need to understand. So when you watch the media and you watch the movements and the energy and all, protect the system, man, you've been told your whole life the system's corrupt. And now as soon as someone comes to uproot it, you start defending it. Do you realize how you're jumping for the ball? So if you think the intent of the economy was for you to be able to buy cheap crap, it comes at the cost of people being exploited, both here and abroad. And that was never the intent of an economy. An economy is meant to provide people upward mobility in their lives, an opportunity to make a living, save some, and for their next generation to do better than them and live the American dream. It's not for people all over the world to be exploited for cheap labor so they could have cheap crap, and somehow that's a better quality of life. Like as if not having a really meaningful job, but having access to cheap crap on Amazon and anything you want to watch on TV and crappy food is somehow living the great life. There's a complete delusion about what is going on in small-town America, where people 30, 40, 50 years ago, even in my family, I see an immigrant family. They come over. My grandfather worked at a cookie factory, was able to raise a family of 4 comfortably. And not extravagantly, comfortably. Now, what's comfortable back then, probably people look like it's living in the gutters, but it wasn't. It's just we've changed what's a priority. They had a lot of time with the family. They were around each other a lot. Instead of running around frantic, traveling all over the country, never seeing their kids, but they're able to send them to travel soccer or whatever. And I'm not judging the way people live, but just trying to understand, like, what is the real dilemma? So what's the economy for? The economy's for, it's not selfish means to have cheap stuff. And we have to look at the cost when we see, like, oh, our stuff's going to get more expensive. Well, what's the cost to the United States of America when people are on welfare, people are underemployed, people are drug addicted, alcoholics, broken families, broken communities, and all the costs that go associated with that? You know, I hear people, these experts on TV talking about the GDP, and the GDP is actually fine. And, you know, one point I made to my buddies on the text thread is, look, if you want to compare to GDPs, 40, 50 years ago, I'll tell you some things that weren't calculated in GDP. Online gambling, marijuana dispensaries, online porn, video games, and a plethora of other useless activities. It was cars, washers, dryers, steel, things of use and utility. And yes, our society changes and modernizes. I get it. But there's certain things that are always going to be around. And a bullet's a bullet is a bullet. If you can't make a bullet because you outsourced everything to your enemies, you can't even fight the conflict. Now, a thing I find curious is there are many politicians over the years that ran on this item. You can look it up for yourself. But an observation I made is all these people did was run on it. They raised money on it. They ginned up the people on it for votes. What they're all upset about Trump is he's actually doing what he said he would do. And they're like, how dare you? This is our thing we run on. We don't actually do it. We can't solve the problem. We have no fresh ideas to run on. What are we going to run on if you actually fix these problems? It's like the border. Both parties ran on the border for 40 years. Now here he comes, and he shows everyone you could actually stop what's going on there. And they're like, well, how are we going to run? How are we going to fundraise money? What scandal are we going to come up with? So the friend sent me a video, Fareed, I forget his last name. It's not worth whatever. He's on CNN. He goes, here are the facts. And he sent it to me. And I'm listening to him, and he's quoting off statistics. But I want to point out there's nuance in all these things. And I want to give you an example of the type of logic I'm dealing with. So one of the guys in the thread is a doctor, and I've been going back and forth with him for some time, and I think I've been proven right over as time has gone on about the COVID shot, and essentially and how unnecessary it was for a vast amount of people. Mainly healthy people under 40, let's just say, to make it simple, okay? Something that's undeniable is there's incidences of stroke and blood clots and other kind of ailments kicking up amongst young people. That there's incidences of that, and it's interesting to see a correlation. He goes, well, there's a lot of nuance. But when it comes to this, there's no nuance. I told you, GDP is not the same GDP as before. And the other thing that people got to note is capital investment, which is what we need, is not all created equal. We need capital going in industries that actually make things. Because when you make things, you have to ship them around. You have to build infrastructure to support them moving around. There's raw material that go into it. When you talk in software companies and tech and social media companies, there are no raw materials. There is no infrastructure needed. So it's not the same. The same dollar going into capital investment of a social media company versus a steel foundry is completely different, or an auto manufacturer. It's completely different. So there's nuance. Here's where there's not nuance. I asked them, look, we got billions of dollars being spent on our healthcare. You think they could simply just do a one-question survey when these people come in and say, did you or did you not get the COVID shot? Or how about two questions? Did you get any boosters and how many? And then let's see. And then causation, correlation's not causation, and all these terms. And it's like, look, dude, just start with something. If you don't look, you're never going to see it. But there's all this nuance. But here, there's no nuance. I got to just watch this video and go, what, is he lying? What is he lying? He's a false prophet. He's deceiving. He's deceptive. You can make a statistic say whatever you want. But I just pointed out some nuance with regards to GDP and capital investment. This is not anything novel. Everyone knew this was true. For years and years, people have been talking about the trade imbalance. Now, these tariffs are not an impediment to free trade. The impediments to free trade were already existing. These are ways to get rid of the impediments. And you know what? If everyone's complaining about Trump disturbing the whole world order, maybe it needs to be disturbed. That's the point. And these things will resolve themselves very quickly. If you want to get rid of the tariff, remove the tariff on us. You know, when they compare to the economies and how great we're doing, it's really not that bad. How many families can survive on one income these days? Why is it that so many got to live on two? It's not right. It wasn't the case before. And you know how many ills of society will be removed as well if you have a parent that could dedicate to work, to staying at home, taking care of the family, taking care of the house, taking care of the meals? I don't know. That's just some common sense. I don't have to agree with everything Donald Trump does. That's not the point. He's not the Messiah. But I do have to point out the lies and the misrepresentations going on in the media. And please, don't jump for every ball. Try to think it through. Why don't you turn off the news for a week and think? See what happens.
Sing it!
Thanks for joining us for another episode. I hope I got you thinking and out of your comfort zone. Believe me, the biggest fear your government has is a population that is thinking and talking to one another. So get out there, take a risk, start a conversation, make a friend, and reason with each other. Share the show with someone who you think needs to hear it. I wish you peace and love.